If I had to choose one single film that captures psychological deterioration better than almost anything else, it has to be The Lighthouse. The premise is incredibly simple. It's literally two lighthouse keepers that are stranded together on an isolated island, with no escape, seemingly no privacy from each other, and absolutely nothing to look forward to. The film starts off very uncomfortable, with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe's characters both bickering back and forth. This is a stage of the movie where they don't really know the circumstances they're under. There's at least a little hope at first. The film has a turning point in which things start to progressively get weirder and weirder. And by weird, yes, I mean Robert Pattinson's character jerking off to a mermaid. These two descend into madness so slowly. It starts off with the uncomfortable phase, then it's strange. It's honestly such a fucked up situation to be in, because to stop this arguing and to actually stop from it going any further than it is, they could just separate. But at the same time, each other is all they have. And their tension is kind of like a snowball. It starts off small and then it escalates all the way up until they get arguing and try to go at each other and kill each other over some cooking. And there are many times where this movie completely detaches itself from reality, because we're seeing this movie through this point of view of the characters. And because the characters don't know, we don't know when reality stops. When people do go insane, whether it's in media or real life, they don't really know instantly as soon as they wake up. It's usually a gradual process of things picking at your brain and slowly deteriorating your actual mind state. This movie touches on something similar to what sailors went through around this time as well. Why else do you think the folklore in this movie was created? In real life, these sailors were on survival mode in an infinite pool of nothingness, just floating away. Any little thing that didn't look like something they could immediately distinguish had to have been a monster, had to have been something that was going to kill them, or at the very least, a bad omen. I don't think any other film explores fractured identity better than Perfect Blue. We're following a pop idol transitioning into acting, and at first, the stress, it seems manageable. Then it slowly starts to become a blur. She starts seeing things, hallucinations. Then she realizes that her memory is not the most reliable. This obsession with the lights starts to compete with her private self, and as the film goes on, she can't really distinguish between the two anymore. When a lot of people say this was ahead of its time or that this is relevant today, it's very, very like baseline, non-specific things. But Perfect Blue talks about stuff that is literally happening now, especially with social media and all of that. We see so many actors, actresses, and celebrities in general lose themselves. So many influencers trying to do absolute stupid shit for views and clicks. We have our main character slowly changing herself to fit the standard. And now 30 years later, we have influencers breaking the bones in their face to become beautiful. Sunless Sea is an incredibly underrated game in the scope of mainstream, but I wanted to include this because this is a game that I played when it first released, and I had to watch a few recaps and playthroughs to kind of catch myself up on this, but this honestly fits perfectly on this list. The game is set in fallen London, and you might think, what does that even mean? London's already fallen. No, I'm playing, but London fell in a war about 30 or so years ago. Now it's close to hell. It got dragged down to the depths of the earth to a place named Neath. And as you would imagine, there is a lot of demons there. And you play as... Wait, who do you play as? Yeah, you play as nobody. You're just another captain. And you have a very tiny ship and you choose an ambition. This game doesn't have the main character syndrome that, most games have. For obvious reasons, everybody wants to be the hero. But this game just throws you out into the world and says, good luck. Try not to starve. And as you travel from island to island, you realize that there are monsters in this, but that isn't the real threat. The real threat is how much your hope is going to deteriorate by playing this game, by going on this journey. You're not some famous captain, you don't have a gigantic fleet, and alongside fuel and food and things like that, there's also a terror bar that you have to manage. And if you don't, everything becomes darker, things get quieter, and your crew start imagining things. Some go insane. Some try to throw themselves overboard. Some even resort to cannibalism. And unlike the health bar, which feels very tangible and feels like a resource, terror is psychological in nature. You're not even sure if you're actually seeing these monsters or just becoming the kind of person who really just believes they're everywhere. There's a unique madness that really only can manifest when one is isolated from all the things they're used to, their family, friends, their daily life. And loneliness nor grief alone can really spark this kind of madness. But what happens when the isolation is perfect? Perfect in the way that it is the absolute extreme of isolation. It is in another place, not physically. And this is why the Backrooms has been so prevalent recently. But the movie has taken it to an entirely different level. It's a place that seems so familiar, yet it can't be. Because if you have been there, you're stuck there. There are no windows, no exits, no people. Well, there's, another person as well in the movie, but there is just this constant and creepy hum of fluorescent lights throughout the entire movie. And honestly, if you watch like the YouTube short film or just looking at the picture, it gives off that same empty feeling that an empty mall or an empty doctor's office gives off. This place is supposed to be full of life, yet is devoid of everything. And that's exactly why it works in my opinion. Because in the new movie, the monster isn't really like this creature. It's literally the environment. The hallways itself are just identical. They all feel alike until they're not. In this movie, we follow Clark, and through his descent of madness, we see that things from the outside world are manifesting in the back rooms. In his death scene, which is honestly one of the most disturbing scenes I've seen in a while, we see as he confronts himself, and he makes the mistake of trying to reason with it, trying to comfort it in an attempt to save himself. But really, the Backrooms are unbiased. They do one thing and they only do that. We see how he just kind of accepts it at one point. We see all the ways that he is not, a nice person, or he's not kind. We see all these flaws that he has, and at the dinner table scene, he finally accepts it. But that wasn't the only thing that he's accepted, as we see the pirate version of himself bite into him like he's a damn apple. And then we realize that he has accepted his own misery. The fact that he blames everyone else for his problems, his constant complaining, it literally eats him alive. What's so interesting about all these stories is that they're all really connected in different ways, mostly through vulnerability, because you have to have some form of that to really descend into this madness. Whether it's perfection or identity, absolute isolation, all these characters kind of begin somewhere where we can all relate to. And honestly, that's what makes it so unsettling. This feels like any of us can go through this. We might not get ourselves stranded on a remote island or enter another dimension where you can't escape from it. But all of these things are very exaggerated and can very well happen to us in real life. It's just us, but the dial turned just far enough. And I want to thank all of you guys for all the support. My last video got like 300 views and I didn't promote it anywhere. That was just straight off the algorithm, and I cannot believe that there's so many people out there that are like supporting me. It's crazy.